COVID, that's the most frequent and most popular, seen everywhere phrase today. But actually, the first time I encountered these letters, COVID, I actually encountered it as COVID. It's a Hindi or Sanskrit word, which actually means wise, samajhdar, knowledgeable, experienced. So I want to share with you a handful of little things that this virus has taught me, has taught us. Let's get started. The first thing is, I have realized that just like the birth of Christ gave us an epochal difference between what was before him and what happened after him, the BC AD moment, I have started realizing the way the virus has started impacting everything around us, the economy, the health system, the education system, politics, the way it is affecting all that. I think it is time to internalize that it's probably before corona and after disease. We need to consciously keep asking ourselves, hey, are we thinking in the same way? Or is our thought new? Because the world has changed. Everybody is telling us that. Sangeeta told us about it again to Anand in her mono act. So BC AD. I'm not a doctor. So any references I make to medical advancements and virology, take it with a pinch of salt, because I'm using the virus as a hook or as a launch pad for my idea spreading. I want to spread my ideas virally. I don't want to spread the virus, or I don't really know much about the details and intricacies involved. But this, I am sure, Sun Tzu, 500 years before Christ was born, came up with this beautiful message in The Art of War. He says, if you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. Know thyself is one part of it. But knowing your enemy, what are their strategies? Why would they do what they do? How would they do it? When would they do it? So I'm going to know our enemy, this virus. In fact, I'm going to look at its superpowers of novelty, of exponentiality, of the multiplier effect, of mutability, of adaptability. And yes, I'm also going to see the power of humanity. I'm sure you have encountered all these words. Switch on any TV channel, read any newspaper these days, you must have seen these words. Let's dive in, look at each of these words, and along the way, try to jump out again into this new reality that is facing us and see how a lesson from there might apply to this world in front of us. The power of novelty. It's called the novel coronavirus. It's not just a coronavirus, not just any other virus that looks like a crown or a ball with spikes on it. It is called the novel coronavirus, something the world hasn't seen before, something that's interesting, something that's shocking you, something that you have no reaction for, no immunity for, because you haven't seen anything like that before. When Superman came into our screens, we hadn't seen anybody wear an underwear over his pants. You all agree? He has so many other powers, and there are so many other superpower fighters or Justice League people who save us from doom. But why is this man so famous? How did he burst into our reality and become so famous? I feel he did something different, and one of those was wearing it like that. Jokes apart, when Gmail came into the game, there was already Hotmail. There was already Yahoo Mail. Gmail wasn't the first web-based mail. But every one of us, I'm sure, remember that when Gmail came, it came on April Fool's Day, on April 1. It was almost unbelievable that people thought, oh my God, Google is joking again. Because Google said 1 gigabyte of storage. At a time when Hotmail was giving us 32 megabytes of storage, Google said 1 gig free. In fact, it went ahead and said 2 gigs free, then it made it 8 gigs free, and then unlimited storage. So, something that's interesting, something that shocks you off your socks, something that you haven't seen before. Take a look at the skyline. Can you recognize which city this is from? You can't. But now you can. What about this city? No way you can recognize which city this is from. But now you can. Take a look at this city. Again, boring, common, dull. But now you realize that that's the Sydney Opera House. So when these architects got started and decided to build, got permission from the management and the mayor of the city, they didn't go ahead and build the largest or the tallest building out there. They said, I will build something that is interesting, that is out of the ordinary, that is novel, that attracts attention, that makes people sit up and take notice. You remember this man, Rahul Dravid. In fact, photographs of him are taken. People mark over him, do a trace, and say, this is copybook cricket. This is how this shot is to be played. If you look at the Wisden book of cricket, they will say, this is how the shot is to be played. Do you remember this guy though? This is A.B. de Villiers. He's actually just finished hitting a monstrous 6 of an impossible ball. 140 runs off 60 balls, winning the man of the match and man of the series and the championship. That's A.B. de Villiers. So my question is, did he not read the rule book of cricket and how each ball is to be faced and how each stroke is to be played? Or did he actually read the book and then decide to break the rules? That's what Pablo Picasso said. Read every book, learn every rule, so that you can break them as an artist. So that's my first takeaway. Novelty, dare to be different. The world is too crowded for commonplace average people. If you want to be called out, if you want to be taken notice of, I think it's time to dare to be different. The superpower of exponentiality. We have all seen those curves. Total cases, total deaths, growing like a hockey stick up there. In fact, simply because humans can't really immediately relate to an exponential curve, most statistics websites now give us a logarithmic version of it, something that gives you a log scale rather than an exponential scale. Because exponential is something that somehow our brains simply can't internalize. These are sorry stories. That's the number of deaths we are talking about. But is there a lesson we can learn from it? Is there something that we can take note and remember for the future? If you remember the robot movie, Rajinikanth acted in it, and he creates robots. And what's interesting is he creates robots that have the power to create robots. Self-propagation. That's what the virus did. It infected somebody, and it suddenly realized, I don't need to go around infecting each of them. I have infected somebody, and that person, like a zombie in the movies, can now take care of my propagation. Money works like that. Sangeeta will surely agree. In compound interest, every bit of money that accrues in your bank as part of your interest is also capable of earning its own interest. In fact, this is the formula of continuous growth. What if instead of doing annual interest, instead of doing half yearly interest, instead of doing monthly interest, instead of doing daily interest, I do interest calculations every nanosecond? That is that 1 by n, the whole power n, but n tending to infinity. What if I break a year into a billion nanoseconds, and at each second, whatever money, whatever micro rupee I have earned till then starts earning me interest? That's what Einstein also said. He said, compound interest is the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it, but he who doesn't ends up paying for it. The beauty of the exponential curve is if you differentiate it, if you find the slope of it, educators in the mathematics domain and the engineering domain will realize this is one beautiful curve whose differentiated version is exponential too. Similarly, if you integrate for the area under the curve, that's integration, you will again get exponential data. That's the beauty of this curve. This is the most natural curve there is in all of mathematics, most close to nature. This photograph featuring Amitabh Bachchan is probably one of a million photographs that feature him. But what is special about it? This is one of 32 photographs from the last print roll of Kodak. Kodak, the photographic film company, printed one last roll and said, Steve McCurry, a very famous photographer, go out, capture 32 beautiful photographs, something that will be cherished forever in this world. Why? Why did Kodak try that? That's because Kodak has always been an innovative company. It was the first company that brought the camera obscura, the box camera, the daguerreotype. It was the first camera that brought film. It was the first one with 35mm. It was the first SLR camera innovator. It brought the first Polaroid model. In the 1980s, point and shoot became famous. And again, Kodak was the pioneer. 1990s, digital compacts, something that you could slip into your pocket, snap out whenever you want, take a photograph. 2007, slimline compacts were coming out. But guess what happened in 2007? This is what happened. The iPhone, something that brought together a browser, a communicator, and a camera, blew Kodak out of the game. Kodak filed for bankruptcy, laid off 30,000 of its employees in 6 months after the iPhone came out. So that's the game. If you have one bacteria in a dish and every day it doubles, there is this common puzzle people ask in interviews, right? At the end of 30 days, the dish is full. When was it half full? They ask you. Some of us make the mistake of saying on the 15th day. Then they laugh at us and tell us, no, that was on the 29th day. Yes, good joke, good little puzzle. But I would like to take this a little forward and think on the 30th day, the dish was full, which would mean the bacteria had overgrown and filled all space available. But look back at that single bacteria. Slowly it's getting crowded. When do you think that bacteria realized that it was getting crowded? On the 29th day, half the room was still empty. On the 28th day, 25% only was occupied, which means 75%, there was social distancing all over. 75% of the room was empty. So that is the power of exponentiality. More of the same can be a whole new thing. That is why countries, companies, people, we all make that mistake because we simply cannot understand how exponentiation works. You can't be ready for it. So if you can't be ready for something, you need different strategies. You cannot continue with stuff that you have learned at school and college. Let's see what those strategies could be in the future chapters. All right, the superpower of the multiplier effect. Again, bad news. Most of the people dying because of COVID are not dying because of COVID. They are dying because they have hypertension. They are dying because they have diabetes. They are dying because they have renal disease. What COVID does amazingly is it has got this unfortunate multiplier effect. If you're okay, all fine, it probably leaves you like the British Premier. 15 days, came back. But if you have a current condition, COVID is like a magnifier. There is sunlight, I sunbathe, all fine. But if there is a lens, a magnifying glass held between me and the sun, my skin takes a hole. It's like a laser beam. That's the multiplier effect. So I want to tell you about 3 skills that can be multiplier effects for the career you are pursuing. Many of you are educators, many of you are learning. I think these 3 skills are very important. Whatever you're doing, whatever be your domain, whatever be your passion, whatever you want to pursue. The first skill is the ability to put down in writing, to communicate. The world is a large place. You are not going to be able to meet everybody. With social distancing and lockdown, it's going to be impossible. How are you going to get your message across? You might be the greatest designer in the world. You might be the greatest thinker in the world. But if you can't put it down, you need to. There are 2 villains out there. There is geography. Somebody too far away, you have to overcome that. And then there is time. How am I going to get a message across to somebody who is going to be born 50 years from now? So writing is a skill. Putting words together, coming up with messages that inspire, that move you to action. It is a skill that is going to be very, very important. And it is a magnifier or a multiplier effect. Whatever you know, writing skill is going to magnify it. The second skill I would like to point out is programming. Today, we think it is the medical folk, the scientists, the healthcare workers who are fighting at the front lines. Yes, but there are scientists in IBM. There are researchers at Google who are trying to crack the code of the virus by writing programs for it. There is so much work that is happening out there that is being powered by programming. The world used to be divided between the learned or the literate and the illiterate. Today, more than ever before, you're going to be asked, what programming skills do you have? Because this is the core of automation. This is the core of liberating you from drudgery and error-prone work. You need to elevate yourself. See, this virus, this COVID exponentiation has hidden completely from today's news another exponentiation that was hitting us, the robotic revolution. They're coming, they said. Automation is coming, they said. Will your job be replaced? They said. We have stopped talking about it. But that's not going away. Even today, when most of these companies come out of their lockdown, they are going to wonder, do we need this guy or can we put a robot there? Do we need these 3 people or can we write software that will exclude, that will obviate the need for the third one? So learning programming, whatever your domain, you might be a biologist looking for protein folding, you might be a gamer, you might be a physicist, you will need programming skills, and it is a beautiful multiplier. The third skill, do you recognize this lady? I've seen her somewhere. How many people do you know who are chartered accountants, who are CFOs, who also have a YouTube channel, who have also written bestseller books? So public speaking, either in a closed environment via video conference, I'm talking to 3,900 people. I have never done that before in my life. That's the amazing power of technology. Or just having a small closed door meeting with 6 people where you try to propel them, galvanize them into action. Speaking skills go hand in hand with writing skills. So these 3 skills, writing, programming, and speaking are going to be very, very important in this post COVID world. Whatever you do, don't tell me that's not for me. Programming is not for me. This will help you because it has the magnifying effect. They help you multiply. All right. Let's look at the superpower of mutation and adaptability. Yesterday, when I was researching about COVID, three news items hit me. Just 14 hours ago, this news item. COVID-19 study shows disease has mutated and some strains hit harder. We've been talking about India as a blessed country. India has too much pollution. India has too much heat from the sun, so COVID won't affect us. Our numbers are so low and all that. But looks like the COVID that's ravaging Spain is not the COVID that's probably here in Asia, here in India. I don't know. But people are talking about it less than 20 hours ago in the New Zealand Herald. And there is this, it has mutated more than 30 strains. So why do you think we still have common cold? It's a rhinovirus. And why hasn't a vaccine been invented for that? It's because it mutates. There are so many different strains of the common cold virus out there that you can't give a vaccine for every one of them. That's the power of mutation. That's the power of adaptability that we can probably learn from this invisible enemy. It changes. It reacts to the weapon I use on it. Do you remember this guy? Every one of you, some of you even used it. Many of you would have received it in WhatsApp forwards, email, Instagram, Facebook. He's probably the most famous little boy out there. That emotion, that victory, that grit, I can do it. But why is this guy famous? It's because probably people can come up with anything, a story woven around it, and he's still applicable. Late to work, boss was even later. Don't know a question on a test, answer is in another question. Right? So that's mutation, that's adaptability. You start with a plan. And then you realize along the way that probably that plan isn't working. Do you continue doggedly on that plan? Or do you say, take pause, wait, the world has changed around us. The land has moved beneath our feet. We need to play a different game. Bourbon, a company that probably none of you have heard of, came up with these features. We want to allow people to check into locations. I am coming to this hotel. I will be having this food. I will be hanging out with my friends. I will be sharing photographs of the food that I am eating there, or the lighting in that room with my friends. It had 27 different features like that. But the world just didn't bother. Nobody bothered about those 23 different features, and they just focused on one. That single feature that became so famous with bourbon was you could share photographs. Guess what happened? The founders of bourbon converted it to Instagram. That is the Instagram we all use. It had, when it was born, 23 different features that nobody really cared about. So bourbon pivoted. Bourbon adapted. Bourbon mutated. We think this is the worker. Pre-COVID, in the busy times, this was the worker. At office, with a computer, fiddling with charts, wearing a coat, wearing a tie, well-groomed. But same guy, this is how he is today. There's the dog. He is seated on the floor. There is Netflix running in the background. His mom and his wife is in another room. That's what is happening today. Again, mutation, adaptability. Man didn't survive this long. Man didn't become the ruler of all earth because he is the strongest or tallest or fastest running animal. Every one of those categories, there was another animal which could kill man the next instant by strength, by speed, by height. Man survived and thrived because he was adaptable. There was this fifth finger. There was a brain. There was a thinking brain that came up with, oh, you have a free hand? Let's start fashioning tools. So that adaptability is very important. Netflix. Guess what Netflix did when movie theaters closed down? Malls closed down. Netflix launched something called netflixparty.com. Till now, we have been watching Netflix as an alternative. We could just sit at home, probably have a bowl of popcorn and have a remote next to us and keep fiddling with what's next. Netflix Party, you can invite your friends in their own rooms, in their own houses. They could log in and watch the same movie, that same frame. In fact, they even launched a chat bar on the right. See, that's what people do. That's what friends do when they go to a movie. They yakety, yakety, yak. They don't even let people watch the movie properly. And Netflix said, is this what you want? Is this what you're missing? Let me reproduce that environment for you. Seth Godin, famous author, blogger, inventor, thinker, talks about how to ready oneself to the unexpected. Is there a way at all? People say, be ready for change and get used to it and so on. He says there is no way you can prepare yourself to change. You need to incorporate change into your mindset, into your day-to-day routine. He says, one day when going out, switch off Google Maps. Ask around. Ask people which is east, which is west, which is the 4th street. How do you get to the town hall? That social skill, that map making skill is slowly degrading simply because we have become a data slave. He says, talk to Alexa or talk to Google Home and mumble something. Let it identify something wrongly and start playing Czechoslovakian music for you. Because we are data slaves, too often when you go purchase a book in Amazon, it tells you, hey, the moment you finish this book, this is the next book you have to read. Because 3,000 other people did the same thing. You listen to music, it tells you this is another music you might like. Because everybody else who liked that music listened to this also. He says, get out into the open. Go to a random street. Pick up a random bookshop. Pick up a random book. Take up a random page. That is something that is being deprived of today. They don't let us have this exploratory random walk adventure because data is being consumed, intelligent insights are being derived by all of those companies, and they are shaping us. They are letting our past shape our future. And today, more than ever before, the BC AD moment has come. We cannot afford to let our past shape our future. This was Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt, who said, long ago, in the 1960s, she said, do at least one thing every day that you are mortally afraid of. You would rather die than do it? Oh, do that, she said. So that is a good motive to live by, I would say, in these modern times. Don't be a data slave. Snap out of those algorithms that are guiding you and define your own future. Mutability and adaptability is something we can learn from the virus. Because old keys won't work. Many educational institutions give us keys, but they forget to tell us that the locks have changed. These are the locks. Will that key work? So instead, let us try to teach our next generation of students the art of fashioning keys by themselves. Oh, if this is the lock, let me fashion a key. Don't give them keys. Teach them key making. So that's adaptability, because change is the only constant. Coming to the humanity, the other side of the game, we saw so many parts of the virus. What is the one power we have? That's the power of humanity. This is Bill Gates. Once upon a time, he was the Silicon Valley super genius who created Microsoft. But today, he is more famous for his prediction that this pandemic is coming. And his great fight, millions of dollars he has invested on it already for finding a vaccine for the virus. And he says there is only one way we are going to succeed: by coming together, by sharing openly, by not letting politics affect us, by not letting petty problems bring us down. The virus requires us to act with unity, he says. In fact, he has come up with a beautiful framework. He is invested in a company that is working on a framework. Typical vaccines take years for testing and then probably many more months for approval. He says this company is going to do a framework approach. They call it the DNA and RNA vaccines approach, directly injecting the RNA load of the virus into your body so that you create your own vaccine. Imagine the person creates his or her own vaccine instead of being given a vaccine that has been created in lab. So this, he says, will probably speed up approval. So we want to enter a world where our peers aren't our enemies. In school and in college, we often compete with the people next to us. This is how we do it. We compete. But the hands can come together like this too. Today, across color, creed, caste, language, nationality, this virus is affecting us. We need to come together. There are other ways to bring hands together than just the one you see on the left. This is the typical office where people collaborate, where people plot and plan and dream of a great future. But how is a typical school or college? This is the typical school or college. We want to pit people one against the other and bring up the best of the best and offer them into the world and say, this person is the best competitor that I know. Is that what we want? Do we need competitors here? Do we need people competing? Hey, how do I protect the idea that I have so that this other guy doesn't get it and I get a promotion ahead of that guy? If that is the toxic chemistry that's running in your team, your company is doomed. Today, we need people to work together, to come together, to collaborate, to cooperate. So we shall overcome, but the we has to change. It cannot be just we in this company, just we in this country. It has to be a global movement. And for that, at this time when impressionable young minds are passing through your academic institutions, you need to ingrain in them this Sahadaiva Kudumbakam, they say, Vasudaiva Kudumbakam. So coming together, the global singularity of us all, it is something only you can teach. The world has changed. There was a time when the Indian army, we used to say, my God, they are in Siachen, they're in Kargil, they fought for us, they are our heroes. Then there was this time, Satya Nadella and Sundar Pichai, they are our heroes. They said, Silicon Valley giants ruled by our guys. And today, these are our heroes, we say, the healthcare workers, the scientists, the doctors, the nurses. We are praising them. The game is changing. Probably a time might come when manufacturing becomes very important, where probably a plumber who knows how to fix a leak in your sink or who knows how to dig something up and fix a fuse might be paid more than a software engineer. Software engineers are going to be everywhere. Very recently, I was reading an article by Mark Anderson. I strongly recommend that you read it too, where he is calling out to Americans, the time has come for us to build. Sangeeta referred to the same thing about China being the manufacturing powerhouse and that resulting in problems in supply chain. Create, build, and that is how we can overcome. The virus will come, the virus will go. There might even be another virus coming around the corner. But self-sufficiency, by yourself, can you create enough to take care of yourself, and you create can you create a little surplus so that you can help the needy around you. That will be the right approach to manage these VUCA times that people keep talking about. Thank you.